Okay, this second panel will again be anchored by Dr. Suryani Suratman and will feature family researchers again, Fatia Abdul Samad, Muhammad Zulfikri Rahmat, Nora Samusir, President Ronnie, Sarafian Saleh, and Dr. Vivienne Wee. For this second panel discussion, it will bring us deeper into the cultural dimensions of ancestry research, including aspects like language, memory, identity, community, and the practices that help us understand who we are. And so may I invite our family researchers to return to the stage and get ready for the next panel. Dr. Suryani, I leave the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean. I'd like to say thank you again to Faiza and Alunan Kampung Gelam, Azura, Almira, and Thaddeus for that stirring melody. They gave me the goosebumps, and I like to also acknowledge this term goosebumps was something that Juliana shared, in her recent talk, SIFA talk, past, present, and future, where she says it's so very important to create as many goosebumps moments, for all of us today. So thank you, Alunan Kampung Gelam. So in this, in the first session, sorry, I just noticed that there's an empty chair. We don't want, we don't want it to be empty. It has to be filled. But I guess Ronnie is still having to bid farewell to Minister. Anyhow, so in the first session, we heard panelists share what triggered them, whether it's coming from within, from themselves, being curious and wanting to find out, about their ancestors, or whether it is something from outside, externally. I remember Fatia's, sharing where a question was posed to her. No, you can't just say that you are from Singapore and you are Malay. And of course, what Nora said is also very important in that, there's, in the case of the Bataks, it's so important to know your genealogy because that defines you, okay? So for me, the search for our ancestors is not only about genealogy, it's not only about knowing who our grandparents or great-grandparents, all our ancestors are, that's very important, and where they come from. There are other dimensions, in that process of searching one's ancestors that are important. Cultural dimensions, economic, political, because decisions have to be made. For example, when Ronnie was saying, about his ancestors moving, from one place to another. Okay, so I'm taking this opportunity here to invite our panelists in this session, this second session, to share with us, these other dimensions. As you see from Faiza's sharing, as well as Kampung Gelam, Alunan Kampung Gelam, it is through music, that one discovers the past. That's one way. In the afternoon, you had food that has been cooked using recipes that have been passed down from one generation to another. There are costumes. Look at this elegant, all the elegant costumes that everyone are in. So let's talk about these dimensions, and I'd like to invite anyone who wants to start off the sharing. Yeah. Thank you, Vivienne. Thank you for starting.
I want to say that we need to be aware of the silences. Because, like Ronnie was telling us about patrilineages, and patrilineages often ignore the women, and they ignore the juniors. This is why I don't know my great-grandmother's name. In fact, I only found out my grandmother's name at her funeral. Because we always call her Mama. So we don't know her name. So and it's not recorded. It's not recorded. And we only know kinship terms. So we need to be aware of the silences.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, like using kin terms, then you don't refer to what their names are.
Yeah, and they don't record it.
Did anyone do anyone feel that there was silences? I mean, like that you encountered where you couldn't find like information, because I think you mentioned, it's the women though. It's the women who were telling you the stories.
Yes, I was very surprised to learn a lot of my family stories from the women, from my mom, from my grandmother, from a few late grand aunties, but not the uncles. I wonder, is it because of shame or wealth or both? Because most of the Bugis people who left Makassar, I won't call it diaspora, because we have been moving around Nusantara for 1,000 years. Yeah. When I say Bugis, I say, hey, you're not Bugis, you're Makassaris, you know. So I trigger her again. Okay, but we are Austronesians, have been sailing around Nusantara for 2,000 years, 2,000 years. Okay, maybe these people from Silibis, so-called, they sail to Singapore, they sail to Java, and of course, what made me want to go deeper into the Bugis evolution and migration was from the blade, from the Bugis Keris. Okay, because if you look at the Bugis Keris, it's a bit different than the Javanese Keris or the Minang Keris. If I'm wrong, you let me know, okay, Mr. Tengku Shaizan. He was my sifu before. The Bugis Keris has many versions. You have Bugis Minang, Bugis Sumatra, okay, they have Bugis Malaya or Malaysia, they have Bugis Siam and so on. Of all the blades, the Bugis blades, they evolved based on the Pandre Besi or the blacksmith who traveled around, or probably it's the local smith that adopted the Bugis shape, Keris, and put their own signatures, their own bands, their own looks or curves, or their own dapur or the formation of the base. And this actually brought me to investigate why this Bugis Keris evolved, but not other Keris. And when I go deeper into it, the problem is, okay, I won't say problem, but the thing is, after I went deeper into my genealogy, I got stuck. I found that I've actually embarked on a journey that I couldn't turn back. So that's the danger about genealogy. But it's a good thing.
Moving forward, right? You have to
yes,
keep
looking forward, because the more I look at it, the more I don't know, the more I want to prove my worth as a Bugis in Singapore. Because you know why? Like I say again, the Bugis were non-existent in Singapore. And I also want to compare what is the difference between a Bugis dress or Bugis fabric and a Javanese fabric. So with such comparative analysis, I went deeper and deeper and deeper into the language, into the culture, into the way they believe, religion. Okay? It's all in my book. And I got deeper into deeper. And because of this, I started to go into getting more information onto comparing with the other general Malay community. And of course, we don't only get influence from the Malay per se, but we also get influence from the Chinese, from the Indians, from the from the Dutch, like this Songko. This Songko is actually a Dutch influence and others. So I realized that the Bugis culture is a little bit complex, yet very unique. So these are some of the silent things that I'm trying to discover and still rediscovering until today.
Yeah. Nora, did you want to say something there?
It's on now. I just wanted to go back to what Dr. Vivienne was saying about how the silences. I see what you mean when you say silence, but I guess when I think of it in my culture, it's very rude to call the older generation, your elders, by their name. But we do have Tarombo. So in the Tarombo, everybody's name is in it. Only males. However, the Dalihan Natolu means that that each generation remembers who their hula hula is. So then there is Bonan, I don't know the exact, the kind of terms, because I never married and never had to find out. But there are these hula hula obligations, so you must remember who your great-grandmother's surname was. So I think individuals in some cultures are not as important as clans. So you remember your grandmother's clan, you remember your great-grandmother's clan. So women are remembered by their clan associations, which is also why I say even if I marry, I would not change my name. And also, in terms of naming traditions, I think this is very interesting. And I found that kind of a lot of Asian cultures have this, that you don't refer to people by their given names, especially when they're grown-ups. So my mother, my parents, when my brother, first child was born, was very proud, because then they get the status of being oppu. Oppu means nene or dato, grandparent. So then my parents were called Oppu Sara, because my brother's daughter's first child is Sarah. And you never call my father Pakat Kostan, you must call him Oppu Sara. No, it is required. No, his galar, what he is called in society, reflects his status as a father, as a grandfather, and in some lucky people, great-grandfather of somebody. But in the Tarombo, your name is there. So again, yes, male. Again, no, my father put my niece's name in there, but my name is not there. Yes, I agree. So that's what I'm saying. On the one hand, maybe we won't agree, but I recognize that in our culture, it is the clan association rather than the individual record that is important. Yeah.
But the women get omitted.
The women's names get omitted, but their marga doesn't, because each generation knows who their great-grandmother's marga is. Yeah. Yeah. In the silsila,
I mean, if you are married, you recognize
no. If I'm, because the silsila is patrilineal.
Patrilineal.
Yeah, but some silsila, they show, I mean, as I said, the married woman's name when she passes away, it's on her tombstone. She never loses her name in that way. And her descendants will know her marga, that the grandmother was Boru Situmorang, like my mother is Boru Situmorang. My sister, there's another story that I wanted to say, which is kind of, my sister-in-law is actually ethnic Chinese, but because of our adat, you have to belong to a marga, right? The Dalihan Natolu that I mentioned earlier, right? So my mom's brother, my uncle, adopted my sister-in-law so that she can have a marga, so that my brother can have a hula hula, so that then he can take part in adat ceremonies. Yeah. So to become Batak, you have to. You can become Batak if you're adopted by a Batak family and you take on their surname. So my uncle, when he passed away, he has 3 biological daughters, but when he passed away, his eulogy was that he left 4 sons and 4 daughters, because his adopted daughter, my sister-in-law, who is ethnic Chinese, was part of his genealogy.
Yeah. I mean, kin terms and is also a very interesting aspect, in which I'm sure that it would be different for different
cultures.
Yeah.
So I noticed that in Batak culture, your status as the grandparent is more important than what your Christian name was. It's more important to my dad that he became Upusara than that he was given the name Pangkat Kostan.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just.
There are comments from the audience.
Yes. I was going to open it, just about to open it to the audience. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, my name is Fistri. I am second generation Indonesian Javanese. I am giving this comment in relation to Dr. Wee's comment about erasure of the matrilineal side of the history, and also a comment to Ms. Nora Samosir's comment about how the Bataks actually incorporate a non-Batak into a Batak community. I know that for a fact because I've got 3 of my cousins who married into Bataks. One is getting married in the weekend of National Day. So in July, she's going to be indoctrinated, or rather, I'm sorry, not indoctrinated. That's a very wrong word. Inducted, sorry. The right word is inducted into the Batak community, and she would be using the marga Panjaitan or Pardede. Baru it is. But the thing is, she is Chindo. And she's Chinese, Indonesian, and she doesn't really have a marga, but then again, in the Javanese side of it, she has a surname which is a Singheh, which is my mom's surname as well. So the thing is, coming back to Dr. Wee's erasure, with these Bata traditions, which I totally recognize and understand, because you need to be to be a Bata in order for you to go through the traditions and all that. So where does that leave people who are non-Bata, who got into the Batak community? Where and how would the 2nd or 3rd generation find out about their matrilineal tradition when you, in a way, already indoctrinated them as a Batak? So that's my Chinese, Indonesian, Protestant, Roman Catholic side of the family. And then I've got the Indonesian Muslim who actually married into a Batak as well, and she has also a very good, I would say a very interesting lineage as well. She's Javanese. Her grandfather is Minang. So if you are familiar with the Indonesian history, her grandfather is Haji Agus Salim. So her great-grandfather is Haji Agus Salim. So of course she's very proud of that part of her Minang side. So any Minangs here, you probably go, yay, I'm Minang, and then that part of the Minang, she's very proud. So, but then again, she's marrying into a Batak, so she has to be a Batubara, because the Batubara is actually a Muslim side of the Batak community, right? Because I understand that for the Batak Christians, you have the Samosirs and the Panjaitans and all that, and the Batubaras and the, I think the Serigars are the Muslims. So how do we connect and understand this heritage then? I mean, both are, I'm proud of Minang side, and I'm proud of my Javanese side, and then I'm also proud of my Batak side. How do we choose, and how do we not erase one from the other?
Yeah, I have a...
No, yes, okay, wait. Coming back to that. Coming back to that.
Much.
Cosmopolitanism, I'm Indonesian as well as Singaporean, and I'm proud to be both.
Yeah.
How do I choose that?
And we can be many. We are multitudes, aren't we? Yes. Thanks to Whitman. So the question from the gentleman there with his hands all raised up and who stood up.
Yes. Yeah, this is a bit personal for me, and I disclaim and I apologize if my tone is combative or rude. I respect, because my grandma is 87 and she's Minang, and she was and during the war she has always been complaining, why did my blood fathers give me away? And sorry, I didn't meet my grandfather. Okay? Yes, I have my resentments and my grievances with my grandmother, but regardless still, she is still my grandmother. And at the end of the day, love, as much as love or respect, yes, it is, maybe the Gen Zs now are very rude, I agree, they are very rude and disrespectful. Because life is so transactional now. But for me, she's my mother, she's my grandmother, because I still love her even today, even though she slapped me in the face and punched me in the face. But I was 4, I didn't know better. Walaupun sepatu pahit, lebih baik saya rasa lebih awal dari sekarang. Kalau orang yang faham, kita faham. So I'm grateful that she hit me early rather than now. Because if I was hit now, habis, halas, I will be in jail or dead. So I hope we can all find peace in our search. I hope we can find ease in our search. And I don't have a question. I don't have a question. Because, okay, harta itu apa? That is my question. Does harta has to be something you have to hold, or something you hold and kalau nak hold tu, nak pegang di mana? In my chest, in my hand, on the chair. What is harta? Does it have to exist where you have to see, hear, smell, taste and touch? Saya maaf kalau bahasa saya terlalu kasar. Maaf ya. Maaf. Ampun maaf.
Yeah. Thank you for that sharing. And I think, it's that's what searching our ancestors is also about. I'm just wondering, before I take any other questions, I mean, in your search, right, to your ancestors, are there those moments that that gets you, in your heart, whether it was a happy moment or very hurtful, or any of those kinds of moments that you want to that you encountered in your search.
I'm actually not sure what to share now, because like the sharing has gone I think broader than what we should be doing actually. So before, yeah, surprise. I think since a lot of panelists and the sharings have gone deeper into patriarchal system of how some of the Malays are practicing, I would say that the reason why my ancestral search became very special, very spiritual, and very awakening is because I was a bit distant with my own Boyanese ancestry. Why? Because it practiced the same system where only the men, like the man and woman has their own design works that they do. Okay, I just came back 2 months ago and I tried to meet everyone in the island, and when I talk about it to some of the men, I interviewed the men. I said, is it normal that the men do not do women's work? They said it is. Women do women's work, men do men's work. Even if we know how to do women's work, we would never. Because they find it like it's challenging their ego. It's challenging their, I don't know, their dignity or whatever. Because I see that in my father. It's not like he doesn't want to do it. He was not allowed because my late grandmother was there. She protected that system. Okay, so my dad, he doesn't know how to wash his dishes. We have to bring in the kobuan to him, and then he would wash his hand there where he, he washed his hand and then he's done. Okay, and we have separate, like we have 2 dining hall. One is for him and one is for us. That's how distant we are. So I hated that system because I was a victim. So if my brother wants me to iron his clothes, I have to, even though he can do it. Like on days where he's in a good mood, he would do it himself. He breaks, actually the good thing is he breaks the system. But on days when he's being lazy, he'll be like, if you don't want to do it, I'm going to tell our grandmother. Like, can you? Like, he's a better cook than me. So whenever my grandmother is not around, he'll be cooking. I'm not going to cook for him. Okay, but he would always know that he has an upper hand than me. So I've always hated that, and that's why I feel like there's nothing to be proud of to be Baoyan. But then when I came back to Baoyan, and I realized why it happened, because of how merantau, I think everyone is familiar with merantau, but the Baoyan people, especially, I think it's already branded as the people who travels, we're travelers. And even the Baoyan Island is known as the Princess Island because all the men went out to travel and the woman hold the fort at home. So the woman has to do a lot of things. The woman has to be really, really strong because the man was not there. The woman went down, pergi sawah. You know, they had to cook, they had to look after the children. So when I was trained that way, my grandmother trained me that way. It was actually, I thought like, why am I doing this when my friends are out there playing? You know, but then when I went to Egypt at 18, and I live in Egypt for 6 years, I realized that whatever that was trained to me before was, I'm enjoying the wisdom of it now. Because when I'm alone, I can take care of myself. So I hated it. I'm telling you, that's the reason why you hated it. So when you find it again, you treasure it very well. It became emotional because I used to hate it. I used to resent it. But now that I have, I mean, when you get older, you understand what isolation means. Then you know, you appreciate whatever that was, you know, that was thrown at you.
Can I say something?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. From our Peranakan Chinese culture, which is very basically male chauvinist, okay? I myself feel that sometimes, although we have evolved over the years, in the last 50, 60, 70 years, men and women have become more equal in terms of sharing, but we still agree that the women folk still hold the power at home. Okay, so as my father used to say, she who tumbuk the belacan doesn't eat the belacan. Because the husband will say, hey, ni belacan sedap tau. Why? Why? Because her duda is inside the belacan. You see? Right? So, but fortunately, I think we have evolved in a very nice way over the last maybe 100 years. You know, in the old days, when we look at old wills, the Chinese wills, there were some enlightened Chinese Taokees who saw fit to give one house each to every daughter. But some families, no, they give everything to the eldest son and the rest got nothing. Right? That was Chinese culture. Now, to perpetuate this culture, as she said, your grandmother will probably say, okay, that's the family way. We'll perpetuate it, right? And it's mother's milk to tell the son, okay, that's the way to do it. Okay, but it's not fair to the ladies. Yeah. And I also realized that what she says is correct. If you leave everything to your wife, in one fine day, you don't even know how to wash your clothes. You don't even know how to operate your washing machine, right? So it's also good that we share responsibilities today. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Could I just jump in about the looking at equality? Maybe I think part of it, as I mentioned about Dalila Natulu, is that as a man, you have 3 obligations, right? So you have to be you have an obligation to your wife's family, where you have to respect them and you have to, you know, serve them, and then you also have an obligation to your sister's family, that you have to look after your sister and make sure that, you know, she's well treated, etc. You have obligation to the people who will share, who has the next door, because families. Kampungs, hutas used to be patrilineal, so most land. But as you mentioned, there are also, I know that you, as a daughter, you can also inherit land from your father. That's a possibility. But what I wanted to say actually is that the Dalihan Tolu as well as the Tarombo, what it means is that if you were talking about being alone, and a Batak person always, whenever they merantau, they will look for other Batak people. So you will see Batak churches in Irian Jaya, which is not Papua, East Papua, right? They changed the name. You will find Batak churches all over Indonesia because the Bataks will look for other Bataks. And then each Batak will say, what is your marga? And what is my marga? Or what is your mother's marga? What is your mother's marga? And we will try to find kinship. Kinship in Batak culture is prime. That's how you form societies. And you are never alone because you will find another Batak and you will somehow be related to them. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think, was there a hand somewhere over this side? Yes.
Thank you. Fascinating panel. I have a question for Nora. Yes, this is related to genealogy and religion. My first question that is related is the Batak culture and Batak religion. You talked about the genealogy that you showed, fascinating. But when did you have a written tradition, a written literacy, number one? Number two, the impact of Christianity on Batak culture and how much has changed, because the lamppost shifts from there, and I want to know from your point of view the relationship between this and the impact of European culture, European religion. Thank you.
I'll try to be brief. We have Batak script, and the Batak script is like a lot of Southeast Asian scripts. They are based on it's based on Sanskrit. But the only people who could read pre-colonial times, the Batak script, were the Datus, who are the medicine men. They are the physicians, they are the leaders, so the Datu can read. And you can see Batak script on traditional Batak houses. And the Batak colors are red, white, and black, which I have on my ulos. Ulos means blanket, but it's also woven fabrics of different sizes with different meanings. This one is more decorative, and it has designs that you might see on a Batak house. But this doesn't have an adat meaning. But there are many ulos, blankets. Ulos means blanket, of much wider sizes that fulfill adat during different adats, like weddings, funerals. Like my parents passed away, there was an ulos of fabric that's placed on them that is specific for if you have grandchildren, if you don't have etc., etc. All the ulos have different meanings for different purposes. So in terms of the script and in terms of what are the elements of the culture, the Batak house is one way of seeing Batak Batak design, how our philosophy, how our thinking of the world is reflected. The colors reflect the heavens, the earth, and the three worlds, Tolu Banua, tiga benua, Tolu Banua. So that sort of thing, it's much related to the old animist religion. As for the effect of what has happened with Islamization and Christian, sorry, I forgot your name, dear. You pointed out that the Batak, the Toba Batak, the Bataks who live near the Lake Toba, mainly Christians, mainly Protestants, because our missionaries came from Germany and they were Lutherans, and the HKBP Church that we mentioned earlier is a Lutheran church, part of the Lutheran World Federation. But there are also to the south a lot of the southern Bataks of the southern part of Tapanuli. Tapanuli is what we call the whole land of the Batak. Tapian Nauli, beautiful valley is what it means. South Tapanuli, Akola, like Marga Harahap, for example, quite a number of them live. And Nasution is another Batak Marga, which is from the south. They tend to be Muslims, although there are also converts either way. I have cousins who are Toba Bataks, but they converted to Islam, or they married a Muslim person, and they can, and also in reverse, Muslim people Muslim Bataks who marry Christian Bataks, they might convert. So one major difference, though, I would say, as a Christian Batak, is that for a Muslim Batak, it's very difficult for some adat ceremonies, because it requires the sacrifice of a pig. So there are certain Batak adats that are a little bit difficult for my Muslim cousins. And sometimes there are a lot of Batak customs that then the Muslim Bataks of the south do not practice the way that we do in the Toba area. So in that sense, I think Islam came into Indonesia in the 17th century, 1600s. Prof, we have something. Yeah, 12th century. I mean, to our part of Indonesia a bit later, actually. And we were one of the last to be, the Batak people, because we were known to be cannibals. But it's not true. It's because we were so fierce, no, those people don't go there, they are cannibals. Because it's actually not part of our adat. We don't eat human flesh. None of our adat has human flesh in it. But what I'm saying is that for the Batak people were the last to be Islamized as well as to be Christianized in Indonesia, I would say. And in terms of practicing Batak culture, it is a little harder for our Muslim cousins than it is for Christian cousins, because the Islam Batak culture has buffaloes, not a problem. If you are very rich, then never mind the pig, you just slaughter a buffalo. But how many people can slaughter buffalo for their adat? Otherwise, it's a little bit difficult to continue with some of the Adat Batak ceremonies. Yeah. I mean, the Adat Batak, in terms of Dalihan Natolu, the obligations to the three parts of the family, you can continue otherwise. But when it comes to celebrations, it's a little bit harder for Muslim Bataks, I would say. But it hasn't stopped. I mean, there are millions of Muslim Bataks, Nasution being one of them, General Nasution, the late General Nasution. Have I answered your question? Not really.
But thank you for that sharing, because as you were talking about textiles, right, and how textiles also becomes, a way of communication of symbols and
correct.
So on.
Just to cut you a little bit, like I went to research in the library. This one is the Silsila, which is the genealogy, which traces for the very first Batak person. There's also a book on Ulos. Ulos, and Kalyani is nodding, which is the Batak fabrics that is in the library. In the you just look it up. ULOS, National Library downstairs. It's there. I just saw it.
Okay.
I mean, not just, but I saw it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
So,
sharing
and
that.
they are very meaningful. Ulos plays a very important part in Batak culture. Yes, thank you.
So just that thing, the part about textiles, because Sarafian was talking about the textiles, the fabric for Bugis fabric, and I remember Zul, you were talking about was it one of your ancestors did batik?
My grandmother actually hailed from Yogyakarta. But I don't have the dates when she came to Singapore, or at one time she lived in Muar. I knew about this because I've heard my mom mention about her life in Muar, and I don't know how they ended up in Singapore. So when I was doing the book, I asked my father, what was this story about our family having lived in Muar? So my father said, my grandmother came from Indonesia, but actually moved to Muar. And in Muar, she owned a sort of a rubber plantation. And after selling that land in Muar, she made a lot of money. she moved to Singapore, built a huge house, and with so many rooms, she rented the rooms to others. And so she became a sort of a landlady. This, I would call a very strong woman, was just not only a landlady, she was also, she went into postnatal massages, and she made and sold jamu, quite familiar, the traditional Javanese herbal medicine. And she also, I don't know, she did a lot of things. She was a pretty good businessman. Even she managed to lend people money, of course, without interest. She is illiterate, but she's good at making money and counting money. I remember when I was small, she used to come to me and say, Zul, come and look at this book. Please write down, so and so borrowed a certain sum. So I wrote for her. So she couldn't read, but she could read the numbers. So I have to write for her. And she kept this book. Some other time she'll call me again and say, so and so has paid so much to me. So I have to record it in a book. So then again, this is, one woman was very strong. She made lots of money from just renting the rooms, selling jamu, giving people massage, postnatal massages. Various things she does. Yeah.
There's a question somewhere.
Pardon? Oh, the house was actually in Kampung Cantik Lama. Some people call it Kampung Wayang Satu because it's quite near to Wayang Satu. If you know Wayang Satu flyover, it's somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yes, tell me.
Thank you everyone for sharing, and good to see so many familiar faces. You're all very inspiring, so I think really it's amazing. I'm starting my maybe own journey for my family to trace some kind of family history genealogy, but I have had relatives who encountered a situation when they were doing the family genealogy, which then comes not just the names and photographs, but also stories that make our ancestors come alive. We are taught not to speak ill of the dead, but we know that everyone is good and bad in different ways, right? Any advice in your journey in maybe compiling genealogy, how to navigate different perspective of an ancestor's personality or works? Because that one person may have liked me. This person may have treated another relative differently. And when we write it down, any advice on navigating, the realities of ancestors in their good and their not so good? Appreciate that, please.
Thank you, Calvin. I think that's a very important question. I mean, related also to silencing or making it allowing voices, which is important in that process. May I invite any one of you who would like to say something?
Oh.
Try this one.
Oh, okay. I think one needs to see the person's life as a whole and use that as a context, because a person may be forced into a situation where you put yourself in that person's shoes and that person has to make a decision. And the decision may not be ideal, but this is the best that the person could think of.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Okay, actually I have a very personal story. I think Mr. Ng Yu Kang knows about it. Okay, I traced my paternal lineage very clearly. Of course, there are still some challenges where some families don't want to be named due to some internal political issues. Okay, it's okay. Then in my second book, I have to, Mr. Ng Kang suggests that I share my maternal lineage. That's where the challenge comes. I only discovered that my mother was an adopted daughter from my grandmother or my foster grandmother only when I was in Polytechnic. I was 18 years old. I cried and cried all day, because the grandmother I love is not my real grandmother. So, then it took some time for me to accept it. Then I forget about it, because I still love my grandmother so much until she passed on in 2013. Okay, I remember before she passed on, her last words to me during Hari Haji was, don't write too much about the Bugis. People may not like it. But that's the hint, that I heard. Then, I took her advice. Anyway, I still launched my book in 2023, 8 years after she passed on. So after I launched my book, I didn't tell so much about my mother. You can't ask me, you talk a bit about your mother, since it's a Tuah Bugis book, and you talk about Bugis. I said, never mind, I'll tell later. So the second book came, where he asked me to, where Mr. Ng Kang asked a few of our writers to write, so I wrote about my maternal. And I kept her birth certificate with me since I was in poly until now. Okay, the birth certificate wrote my maternal grandfather's name as Jan Fred Pala. He's a Dutch subject. And my maternal grandmother is Annie Ooi, a Siamese subject, but the race is Hokkien. So if you look at me, I've got 50% Bugis, maybe 25% Dutch and 25% Hokkien, so to speak. But when I did my DNA, it's different. I have 45% Filipino, that thing. Then I've got 35% Siamese. Then I've got 17% Chinese, and the small percentage is others, East European. So I should my father. My father said, wow, fantastic. I should to my mother says change, She tell me, as long as I live, don't publish my story in anywhere. So that was many years back. So when Mr. Ng Kang invited me to write, I told him exactly what happened. I said, how to write? Mr. Ng Kang said, just write. You're doing good to the family. But it's different than what my grandma. It's different than what my mother sees. Because she said what? When my grandmother, my foster grandmother, miscarried 3 times after the Japanese occupation, she couldn't give birth. So she actually looked to a Peranakan family, a Peranakan family living in Lorong Bachok. And this Peranakan family has 9 children already. So this Peranakan family is actually my real grandmother, like Annie Ooi. And the father and the grandfather is Jan Fred Pala. He's a sailor. Yeah, Dutch, maybe in a Sulawesi subject. And when my grandmother saw this Annie Ooi pregnant for the 10th time, she disturbed her. Said, "Can I have that kandungan or that child inside?" Then she said, "Okay lah, can lah." So Annie Ooi play with her. Okay lah, can take lah. You can have it when I give birth. Okay, so my grandmother kept it now. But for Annie Ooi, she was just joking. Peranakan lady. When she gave birth, my grandmother asked, "Can I have that baby?" Then Annie Ooi said, "Wait, I didn't promise you." "No, you said you want to give me. You said you promised." So my grandmother kept pestering. And because my grandmother was a landlady also. Another big story lah. She bought that baby for $3,000 in 1949. The story is not written in the book. I can share now. But the book has the story a bit. So my grandmother bought and convert my mother's name, Wilhelmina Emma Pala, to Noribah binti Muhammad Sirat. So this is a story I share with you now, but it's not in the book. So the birth certificate is all there. Until today, until now, my mother has not read that book that I've published. I don't know what will happen to me. Really. But she has this inkling that I've published something. She said, "What not? You can publish anything, La Rafi. Wait until I pass on." So this is the thing that I'm keeping until now. Thank you.
Thank you for the sharing, yes.
I don't know, but from my grand uncle, they said that my grandmother was okay. the Chinese family was also quite a well-to-do family in Lorong Bachok. The thing is that my mother couldn't accept the fact that why she was given away. Is there something that she's handicapped or you know? But my mother is a beautiful lady. I mean, if some of you look in my Facebook, you can see my mother. She looked like Maria Manado. Exactly like Maria Manado. That actually hooked my father. My father, you know, go crazy over her. Okay, thank you.
Yes, there's a question now. Sorry,
You go.
yeah.
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Just wondering, question is to Fatia, because you actually went through your genealogy and you managed to find out your family history. Based on your experience, because your family members, your heritage was actually from Pulau Bawean. What is your advice to those who are actually searching for their own family history in Pulau Bawean? Is there any, like for example here, the resource would be National Library. But back in Pulau Bawean, are there people who are actually looking for lost connection for those who are actually from Singapore? Just wondering.
Okay, so when I went back last 2 months, I was with two friends who knows they are Baweanese, but they never know anything beyond their grandparents who were in Singapore. So I was with them. So when we travel throughout Bawean, and I keep telling people like these two are also Baweanese, but they don't know who they are, stuff like that. The people there told us, at least you need to know the name of the village. The elders in the village, they remember everyone. And there are people who were responsible to remember everyone who have passed and who still live. So at least you need to know the name of whoever, the last person you know, and the name of the village. If you don't know the name of the village, it will be hard to find. In my case, my family, do you know the paddy field? I don't know, if you look at Google or like YouTube videos, if you look at the paddy field in Bawean, that's how many my families are, they're everywhere. But I still did not search for it before because they're everywhere. So I took for granted lah, everywhere. Everyone knows who my family is basically because one of my cousins is a minister in Indonesia. So basically they know who we are. So I have that privilege of people knowing who I am. Everyone try to help out. Maybe you can come to me lah. I can channel you know. But I mean, I just knew about my Javanese great-grandfather 2 days ago. I called my aunt, and she was in Malaysia. She's a Malaysian. She was telling me this was what was told to her, that my great-great-grandfather was Javanese. He came to Bawean, married my great-great-grandmother, and this great-great-grandmother's name is Sharifah. So why is her name Sharifah and not like Halipa, Sulipa, you know, like the Baweanese name? So I asked them, who is this Sharifah? Yeah. So this Sharifah's father is called Raden something. The families are all Raden. So suddenly I got the blue blood lah, the Ningrat blood. So I don't know, but that explains why when I was doing my research on batik and the philosophy of batik in Surakarta, in Solo, in Java, I felt this presence, you know, I felt so connected to Java. I don't think it's just because of my readings. I did the research, I wrote an essay on the Majapahit Kingdom, and I felt like there is this connection, like as if one of my ancestors was there, telling me that, you know, it's as if like, I don't know, this unspoken language or just a spirit that's telling me, wherever you go, make sure you come back to where you come from. So that's why I was so desperate. Do we not have a Javanese blood? And 2 days ago, I got to know that I do have a Javanese blood. They came from East Java, Central Java. And yeah, so surprise. Yeah.
Hello.
Question here.
Perhaps not a question, more a comment, an observation. It's like the Chinese saying, you throw a brick and then hopefully return with the jade. 抛砖引玉. Let me take a different angle and perhaps some of you can react to that. I know GSS during the COVID time, Chairman, President Ng and others were discussed what could be a good business model for genealogy. Is there market or economics in genealogy, tracing the dead? Actually, there's a company called Ancestor.com in United States. Some interesting figure, 2018, they were valued at 1.6 billion US dollars. And then GIC, our government GIC, actually acquired a small stake. 2016, the time was valued at 2.6 billion. Then in 2020, Blackstone bought over them, valued at 4.7 billion US dollars. And now there are some bankers who say that if you will take Ancestry.com IPO, the value will be 10 billion US dollars. And then the CEO, Deborah Liu, who retired last year because she's sick. She's Chinese, not quite Hakka, but she's from Guangdong, Taishan, Deborah Liu. Right, this is Ancestry.com. Now they have a new CEO. Deborah Liu is retired from there. And our partner called MyChinaRoad.com. One of the partner of GSS, were actually in dialogue with Ancestry.com to be able to penetrate the China market. But so far it's not easy. But we have another partner, Nathan, who is very actively involved in the Chinese ancestry. So just throw it out, my brick, and hopefully Jade will come back. Is there economic or is there a business model for us? Because Singapore is so small, we won't be like USA to have a huge subscription of what their income is 1 billion US dollars and the 3 million paying subscribers. Many of these are Hollywood, the stars and the big names. Singapore is so small, maybe we cannot play the volume game. But looking around today, the diversity is what we have in our trump card. Is there a case for us to build a SOP for ancestry work, all right, to build the professional standards so that a lot of noise and hoo-ha will be reduced? So that's my brick to you. Hopefully you can give me the Jade. Is there a business model for genealogy?
Does anyone want to take that question?
I think for most of us in the Genealogy Society, genealogy research is not so much money-making, but it's a very personal issue. A lot of us want to find out who are our ancestors, regardless whether our ancestor was a judge or a pirate or whatever it is. We want to know, where did they come from? What kind of life did they go through? Like my ancestor in the Long Hai, they said that, well, he came from Henan and went down to Long Hai, and Mr. Ng brought me to our home village. And one of them told me, well, because they couldn't settle in the town, because they couldn't agree with the people in the town, and they said, okay, you go up to the mountain and stay. Okay? And you can go up to the mountain, but there's very little arable land that you can cultivate. So push and shove, some of them will end up in Southeast Asia to look for a better life. Okay? Now, as far as we can see that all this ancestry research, etc., what is it based on? It's based on sort of an urge to find out. And where do these come from? These come from societies which are basically immigrant societies. Now, like Singapore, some people may say it's a gold mine, there's a potential there. Because a lot of us are immigrants, and even on this panel, we can find that they are all mixed ancestry. I myself have Malay blood, Indian blood, Chinese blood, okay? In mixed proportions. So if you ask all of them, they all have, Sarafan, you have Chinese blood, right? Right? Suryani, sorry. No? Yourself? No. None? Okay. Yeah, 100% Baba, you see? Batak. Right? So I myself, I have had a family chiapu done in 1939. It's all Chinese. Then one day when I went for a DNA test done by the A-Star in 2018, and then you have a shocking result. Wow, 23% Malay, 15% Indian. Wow, where did they come from? Right? Now, as far as you are concerned, you have got to be objective. It's your ancestry. You can't run away from it. It's all documented there. All right? So I would advise people who want to address their reasons. Okay, maybe Sarafia, your mother, grandmother, she doesn't want to know and all that. That is a very personal decision, because there are a lot of people I know who are adopted, and they always say, you know, I feel so worthless. My biological parents gave me away. I feel so useless. Why did they throw me out of the house? Right? There must be a reason. It could be you are the youngest in the family and you have so many daughters. And those days, families don't like girls because they are considered worthless, right? Right, Vivienne? In the days before the war and all that, women were treated as mere chattels, right? They had no rights and all that. So, and that's the reason why when we do the ancestry research, when we look for the names of our great-great-grandmothers, sorry, so-and-so, Mr. So-and-so left a widow. What's her name? Nobody knows. Okay. And you go to the tombstone, there's no name there. Okay? So, I would advise some objectivity. Okay?
Thank you, Ronnie. There's one hand down there just now. So, yes.
Hi, I am actually an academic researcher, and my current final academic project is regarding Javanese diaspora in Singapore. So I've spoken to my professor. He has vaccinated me. So I first studied about the concept of diaspora when I was in Europe, and then I came back to do my ethnography. And I see familiar faces here. So it took me about a year and a half of travels around Southeast Nusantara for my ethnographic understanding of Nusantara. So let me just recap, and then maybe I could contribute a little bit of what I've studied. And also a very pertinent question right now is that regarding Javanese. So I've had this very intellectual conversation with my professor, he's from NUS, is that, correct me if I'm wrong, okay, because by census and data, is that about 60% of what we know as Malay by ethnicity is by ancestral lineage has got to do with Javanese. This is by so far how history predates, you know, because of Javanese migrant trade, also because of colonialism. So that could be part of it. My question is,
I'm sorry, but because of the
my question is, why do you think there has been such a great interest in the recent years about ancestral lineage and genealogy, especially in Singapore?
Why?
Anybody. I think this is a question that actually would interest the larger crowd as well.
Okay, this is my personal journey. Quick one. Huh? I don't care about, when I did my study on my Bugis family, compiling books, I don't really care about publishing it. It was during the bicentennial period, 2019, when they want to commemorate the arrival of Raffles. So all of us, including, okay, maybe not all, but some of us, like me, the ones who are born and bred here, we don't want this narrative to go to the colonial stories, but our stories. That's the reason why I want to find out my Bugis ancestry. And of course, I've got some Javanese, some Boyanese, some Banjaris who also wanted to do their stories before they inflate the story of Raffles. So that triggered me to quickly produce my story and publish a book.
So it was the context or the
bicentennial,
yes.
The
bicentennial. Is there anyone who wants to add on to that? Yes.
I think so I'm the youngest here, I think. I think that is the feeling of wanting to feel belonged. You want to feel belong somewhere that is closer to you, not just Malay, but who am I really? Because I feel like in this journey, the more you know where you come from, the more you understand how your family behaves, how you behave, because genetically, we do behave somewhat like who our ancestors are. What we eat is important. Like some people may eat differently. It shapes us, it shapes how we think, it shapes how we see things. And it's a bit like how Bugis view the world might not be like how the Balinese view the world. How Javanese view the world might not be like how the Batak view the world. How English view the world is not like how Chinese view the world. We all have different worldview. And to have someone else who shared that same worldview because you grew up in that particular system is, I don't know, it's a happy moment. You feel belong to somewhere else that is not Singapore.
And that's coming from the youngest member of our panel. So I think that's a beautiful way to end because of the interesting. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all the panelists. I hand this over to Sean.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you to the panel. Your reflections remind us that ancestry search is not just about names and dates. It is also about things like blood, stories, culture, values, ties that connect families and communities across generations and even countries as well. Please join me once again in thanking Dr. Suryani and our fellow panelists. Everybody, I'm very delighted to announce that you're in for a special treat. We are now going to distribute desserts contributed by K. Johari. Yeah, so you're in for a special treat, literally. The first is talam jagong, a 2-layer kueh talam. I have to read this slowly, it was a long description. With a green serikaya top and a custard speckled with sweet corn bottom. All right, it's coming around, so I hope to have whetted up your appetites. The second one is cake lapis limau purut, a rare recipe, very aromatic, and it tastes great as well. So please enjoy. So yes, they are distributing it now.